Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And by now, you're probably familiar with this whole introduction procedure, but in case this is your first time joining us, on episode 30, Skyrim, when released almost 7 years ago, was a ginormous game then. So ginormous that even today, many of its most clever Easter eggs, references, and allusions have yet to be picked up by all of its players. So today, continuing our crusade to correct that, we'll be taking a look at yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, Part 30. Starting off, Helskr is definitely the most famous Nord priest living out of Whiterun. He spends his days screaming at people in front of the city's Shrine of Talos, explaining how great Tiber Septim was and why the elves are bad. Because of this larger-than-life persona, it appears coming up with new and creative ways to murder him to death has become among the more popular pastimes within the Skyrim community. Well, evidently, Bethesda seems to have played a bit of a cruel joke when naming this colorful character. You see, Helskr, when translated from Icelandic, means stupid one. From the way it looks, this poor guy can't catch a break, not even at the hands of his own creators. Thankfully, his spirits are always high, and he doesn't seem to mind. Next on our list, during the quest, House of Horrors, the player confronts Molag Bal, arguably the most evil of the Daedric gods, and that's saying something. He'll demand you assist him extract revenge on another Daedric god, Boethia, by helping him to capture, and later murder, one of her priests. Once this quest is completed, Molag Bal will award the Dragonborn with a unique artifact, known as the Mace of Molag Bal, which does 25 additional points of magicka and stamina damage per hit, as well as soul traps any character killed after being hit with it in 3 seconds. From a stats perspective, it's a fairly decent weapon, and it also boasts a rather unique model and texture that in my opinion looks pretty amazing if I do say so myself. Well, evidently, this is quite the legendary item, and the people of Skyrim are very familiar with it. As should the player approach a hold guard with the mace drawn, they will recoil in fear, saying the following line of dialogue.
That mace. Get it away from me. Get it away.
For a third spot, speaking of hold guards, Captain Ailes is the commander of the city guard in Solitude. He can first be encountered reading Rogvir his last rites prior to execution, and from then on can mostly be seen training guards at Castle Dower's courtyard. He looks to be a pretty decent and honorable man. He expresses remorse about the entire Rogvir situation, though ultimately concedes the execution was necessary, and treats the player quite respectfully. However, should the player approach the captain while wearing Stormcloak armor, his entire demeanor will change, and will immediately demand to know why you're in such attire in his city. From here, you can either apologize and he'll simply warn you not to do it again, or own it, saying you're a proud supporter of Ulfric Stormcloak. Should you choose that second option, he and all nearby guards will immediately turn hostile, saying, "Is that right? Well, this is how the Empire deals with rebel scum." And you'll also be met with a bounty of 40 gold as well. A nice little interaction created by Bethesda. For those brave, or disrespectful depending on how you look at things, enough to boast the other side's armor. And a bit of a Star Wars reference too. Coming in at number 4, during the Thieves Guild quest, Speaking with Silence, the player and Mercer Frey, the guild's leader, venture into Snowvale Sanctum, an old Nordic burial ruin south of the College of Winterhold. Together, your objective is to locate Karliah, a former guild member who Mercer claimed killed the last leader of the Thieves Guild, a man named Gallus, and Karliah must be brought to justice. Of course, as you'll soon learn, this is all a ruse. Mercer Frey is in fact the man responsible for Gallus's death. He killed him after Gallus discovered Mercer was stealing funds, and simply proceeded to frame Karliah. During this quest, the two of you do eventually locate Karliah. However, Mercer Frey quickly betrays and attempts to murder you after you learn the truth, and Karliah escapes anyway. And spoiler alert, Mercer Frey did not in fact succeed in murdering you. Well, before you enter the room where Mercer makes his betrayal evident, you'll have to open a puzzle door. It'll initially bear the sigils of 2 birds and a snake. This is in fact some clever foreshadowing by Bethesda, with the 2 birds representing the nightingales, yourself and Karliah, and the snake being Mercer Frey. Thankfully, you eventually get your shot at vengeance, though it definitely takes a while. Halfway through at number 5, Autumn Shade Clearing is a small bear/sabercat den in the Rift. Therein also lives a Spriggan. It's a weird combination of things in nature that want to kill you. Anyway, in this area you'll find a variety of human remains. No doubt those of whatever prey these woodland critters have captured. Well, among the fragmented bones lies a strange couple of sights. You see, some of the skulls here actually have flowers growing out of their eye sockets, which the player can collect and later use as alchemical ingredients. It's actually fairly disgusting in the grand scheme of things, but hey, from the looks of it, these poor souls' bones were at least able to bring life to a few other organisms. Sixth, Dovazul is the language of the dragons. Spoken by these majestic creatures and heard in their shouts, it can also be seen commonly inscribed across the game's many word walls. Well, did you know, Bethesda actually designed the font of Dovazul in a way to make it seem the characters and letters, if you will, were written by dragon claws scratching into whatever surface is being used. This is why Dovazul words on word walls often seem jagged and unrefined. They're not being written with traditional writing tools, but instead, dragon's claws are literally scratching into things to make sentences. Next, the Hearthfire DLC was Bethesda's first real jab at the concept of home building. I guess you can say it laid the foundations for settlement mode going forward. See what I did there? Because to build a house you have to lay I'll stop talking. Anyway, the DLC allows the Dragonborn to build a home on one of 3 properties. Well, should the player opt to construct Windstand Manor, the property in the swamps around Morthal, your family, if you have one, will react in a rather unique way. Any adopted daughters you may have will not be happy, saying there's monsters in the swamp. Whereas boys, on the other hand, will be ecstatic with their new backyard. Now, there is a tendency for trolls to spawn in this area, and there's even a small chance 2 dead Draugr might spawn in your stables after you've constructed them. So perhaps your daughters do have a bit of a point. Likewise, no matter the property, your children and your spouse will actually have a unique opinion of each. However, I found Windstand Manors to be the most comedic. Coming in at number 8, Festus Krex is the cranky old grandfather of the Dark Brotherhood. Notably, he prefers to use magic and spells when confronting contracts rather than swords and blades, making him an inspiration for Sithis-worshipping mages everywhere. According to him, Festus wasn't always an evil assassin. He started off as a child prodigy in the arts of magic, and even went on to teach at the College of Winterhold, though eventually left after he claims they didn't appreciate his love of destruction magic as much as he did. He ultimately found himself in the arms of the Dark Brotherhood, where he was allowed to use his destruction spells however he deemed fit. And the rest is, well, history. But did you know, Krex might have a little bit more of an evil past than he lets on? You see, during the quest, Bound Until Death, where you're sent to kill Victoria Vici at her wedding night, you can ask Festus Krex for advice, and he'll say that killing her will be easy. Since she's a bride, she'll simply be so happy she won't see it coming. He'll then state that he should know he killed his own wife on their honeymoon, over some dispute about bathwater of all things. And clearly he's still a bit resentful. Take a listen.
No, killing her'll be easy. She'll be so happy she'll never see it coming. I should know. I killed a bride once. It was our honeymoon. Tepid, I said. The bathwater should be tepid. Lukewarm is not tepid. Close, maybe, but there is a difference. Stupid cow.
Getting close to the end here at number 9, this one's fairly well known. But southeast of Hag's Rock Redoubt in the Reach, therein lies a bridge spanning over, well, a river, that when approached by the player for the first time in the game, you'll witness 2 goats approaching a third, that together will then all run off in unison. Underneath this bridge is the corpse of a troll. This is all a reference to the popular children's fairy tale, Three Billy Goat Scruff, where a group of 3 goats defeat a troll living under a bridge. Furthermore, a similar Easter egg could also be witnessed in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, making this a bit of an Oblivion reference as well. Let's hope TES 6 continues this trend. And finally, last on our list, we're going full circle. Remember Helskr, the poor priest with the name that translates to stupid? Well, Helskr might not actually be his real name. You see, in the Elder Scrolls Online there's a book, titled Subtropical Cyrodiil, a Speculation. And in it, it's revealed that Helskrs were actually an order of people who assisted in recording events in history. In the real world, in medieval times, in many cases, priests and monks kept historical records, and were our only real source on information dating back from specific events of that time period. So many suspect that Helskr is simply another way of saying high-ranking priest or monk, not an actual name. Therefore, it's extremely possible that that priest we see screaming things outside of Whiterun Shrine of Talos actually has a different name. Maybe it's Jeff. I don't know. Whatever the case, this changes everything. But with that, we're going to wrap up yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Which of the ones featured on this list did you find to be the most interesting? And what tiny details, Easter eggs, and references do you know of that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Shout out to patrons Bcrad and Little Schmupplet for helping me afford food, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.